Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for braving the big storm we had here and coming out and being in presence here with us. Thanks to all the staff here that comes prepared and helps out and stuff. The Barbara who helps with the registration, and Lou with the videotaping, and all the other speakers that are here. I appreciate that. And also thank you to the Bruins for scheduling their event around ours. This is very nice of them. Now that the sun shines out, you know, people are out in the boats, out in the jet skis and stuff on the lake. It's starting to get busy, which is great. You know, that's what the recreation's for, the lake's for, good recreation. A lot of people fishing this year, I noticed. So there's a lot of that, a lot of activities. You know, if people are using common sense and paying attention to the rules that are out there, both the LBC rules and the state rules, you know, everyone's going to get along fine this year. We didn't have too much in terms of bad weather this year in the wintertime. Well, actually we did. We had a good freeze at the beginning of the year, and it actually thawed and then wiped out a lot of docks. Mine was one of them. So as you go around the lake, you can see there's a lot of damaged docks in the lake. It is the owner's responsibility to repair those, and in terms of trees falling, we're going to be talking a little bit about that later. Not sure where the logistics is on that. We had one that actually fell in February and was in the lake for a while. And then when the winter broke, the tree actually worked its way loose. We got an email on April 1st, which at first seemed like an April Fool's joke, but the tree was in the water and got itself dislodged by the high winds we were having at the time. And so there was some emails going back and forth with Dave and concerned citizen, and it started to break loose and floating, and floated all the way down to Monahan's Cove. And Dave was, actually you didn't secure it. I'm sorry, you're right. I'm sorry, Rooney's, and Rooney's Beach. And so there we thought it was going to stay. The wind was pushing it up against the shore, and anyone that lives in a cove knows that, you know, they deal with a lot of stuff that comes in floating from the lakes. You know, we have canoes, kayaks, branches, weeds. It all floats up on your shore. And the owner there at Rooney's Beach sent a little email saying, I've pulled all this stuff out of the lake. I understand it's my responsibility for that, but I'm not pulling this tree out. So, and that was on April 2nd. And then next thing you know, the winds shift. So there it is, floating down the basin again. And we were getting emails back and forth on that, and it turns out Dave Gray noticed it and was kind enough to get out there in his boat and actually pull it ashore at the town beach, and informed, Mike Clayton about it, and we got it removed. So luckily for us, that was one tree that got removed. So that was our big event for for Lake Boon. It's not like what's going out in the Midwest. You know, we're very lucky around here in terms of weather and stuff, so it's good. And I guess that's it. So I guess what we'll do is move on to the meeting minutes from last year.
All right. Last year we were called to order at 6:13. We good? Okay. The minutes that I read were approved except for one dissenter, so hope you're not here again. There was a discussion of mass boating safety courses that were happening in Weston and at Watertown Yacht Club. The LBA financial report was given, which was, quote, mostly good, unquote, and we looked at 3 years of records. We had a lovely ORS presentation from Ingeborg Hegeman. There was discussion of the discount septic program, septic pumping program, in which 45 households were able to participate. We talked about well testing, if there was a possibility of a discount, and some folks expressed some concern about having radon. We had an update on the Lake Boon Commission business, including drawdown, the lake level responsibility, the weed treatment, which we will be discussing later, which will be larger this year, the police patrol boat move to Town Beach, the discussion of legality of altering blinking lights on buoys, boating regulations and state regulations, the dam issue update, and a reminder to have 3-inch letters and numbers of contrasting colors of your address on your docks. We looked over the 2018 calendar, including the Water Carnival. We unveiled the lovely trophy for the boat parade and discussed the rebranded History Walk. We had a Ronnie Fund update, a discussion of the Lake Boone archives at the Hudson Historical Society, which is available to view on Tuesdays from 2 to 4. You somehow decided to re-elect all of us up here, except for one person who couldn't do it, and we adjourned at 7:45. We would gladly accept a motion to accept these minutes. Any objections? All in favor? Yay. Discussion? Opposed? Yay, no this year, yay.
Okay, for the financial thing, I usually show 3 years in a row just so you kind of see the relationship. And the first row there is a negative number with an asterisk there because we have a tremendous inventory of T-shirts and bags that we didn't have last year. So a lot of that is invested, and by the time you leave here with 3 T-shirts each, we're going to be way in the black here. So, but the rest of things went pretty much as normal through here. The one thing that shows up is the Lake Management Fund as a negative number under expenses. And that's because we have received more donations than we have spent in weed treatment. Fortunately, we are on the within the town budgets of both Stow and Hudson, and so for the normal routine treatment, that is handling it. But every once in a while, there's some emergency regrowth or something that needs treatment, so it's good to have that in reserve. And our dues to the Congress of Lakes and Ponds, we didn't pay it last year. We'll end up paying 2 times this year, so that will catch up. Okay, so that's the profit loss statement. Any questions? Okay. And then our balances here for the last 3 years. This is as of the end of 2018, except we do have some the fidelity funds here give a statement near the end of the year, but not quite. So again, we're pretty much holding in the position we are, and again, to have some balance is worthwhile in case there is a need for the weed treatment, because that can be very expensive. Okay. Oh, just thought it might be of interest to see the statistics here on the mailing. We actually mail out 569 gazettes each year, and 56% are in Stow, 40% in Hudson. There's some that are off-site, and you can see at the bottom here, we send copies to the towns and the Mass DEP just for their interest. Okay. I don't know if the LBC would like to say something about the lake drawdown and the situation on the dam.
Hi, I'm Don Hawks, member of the Board of Selectmen, and for my second sentence on the Lake Boone Commission. Before I get started on a few comments from the Commission, Detective Sergeant Mike Solisi is here. I asked if it was convenient for him to come in and give a brief report update, and he agreed to do so. He's on duty and he can be called away at any time, so Before we start, I would like to have him introduce him to you to talk about the police boat and some scheduling issues and perhaps answer a couple of brief questions.
Thank you guys very much. My name is Michael Salisi, and part of my responsibility is overseeing Lee as a patrol officer. So what we're going to do this year is pretty much the same as last year. Lee will be out on the police boat. Do I have to talk close? Oh, okay. So he'll be out on the weekends. That's when he'll be scheduled. And if he can't make it, then we'll try to get a police officer out there. So the boat should be out there. If it's bad weather, obviously we won't be out there. But if something happens, we encourage people to call the Stow Police, and we will respond. We don't always have to call Lee. All the officers will be trained. You will see a couple times this summer, there'll be 2 officers out on the boat. We have a number of new officers this year that need to be trained, so we want to get them out there and up to speed on the boat. The boat will be in hopefully by this week. It was out for maintenance updates and some new radio equipment. And I will be meeting with Lee this week to go over any sort of safety equipment that he needs for that boat. And like we heard earlier, it is going to be at the town beach, just next to the pump house where we had it last year, and that is easier access for us because when we come down Sudbury Road, we can get immediately right onto it if we need to. Any questions on anything?
Have you had any problems with people bothering the boat, or it's kind of by itself?
No, we haven't had any issues yet. Hopefully we won't have any issues. If we do, we do have a couple cameras we can stick down there if we need to. But everyone's been really respectful of our property and the town property, so hopefully that continues.
Your jurisdiction would be both Stow and Hudson?
Yes, that's never changed.
Just for clarity, the question was, would the jurisdiction be both Stow and Hudson?
Yes, that has never changed.
Mike, do you have any plans to buy a new boat to upgrade that one?
I've not heard anything yet. So the question was, do we have any plans to buy a new boat? And as of right now, we have not made any sort of anything looking into that at all. So, what was you going to say, Don?
On the point that Professor Emeritus Gelbke asked in the back, to report any incidents. I know we on the commission, the association, everybody, there's a jet ski doing X, Y, Z, and we tell them, as we have for years and years and years, and this hasn't changed. Even when we were doing the enforcement, it had to be routed through you, but now, as of a couple of years ago, all enforcement issues of stopping boats for violations or anything is handled by the police. Question is, and it's always been, in answer to that question, it's the Stow police that dispatch for the entire lake because it's a Stow officer who has jurisdiction on the entire lake. Which phone number should they use?
So if it's an emergency, we always encourage people to dial 911. That way we know your location. It doesn't matter where you are. If you're out in the middle of the lake, we know which basin you are. We know your location. If it's a routine call that you don't think is an emergency, and you're the one who will decide if that's an emergency or not, just the 978-897-4545 number, that will get a Stow police officer to respond. And not all the time do we have to be actually on the boat to take some sort of enforcement action. Sometimes we can see it from the roadway, or we know what's going on, and we can actually just make contact with whoever we need to deal with the situation as it happens. And like we've done in the past, too, it's all about everyone having fun this summer, everyone being safe, and the police officers that are responding are going to be reasonable. Everything is about reasonableness.
Just a reminder, is it true that when you dial 911 from your cell phone on the lake or anywhere, it'll go to the state police?
So the question was, when you dial 911 from your cell phone, where does the call go? Initially, in Stow, it's set up to go to a regional dispatch center first. So you have to tell them, they're going to ask you some questions, and then they'll reroute the call to us. But we will still see your information on our screens, and we'll still see your actual GPS location. Even if you have your location services off, As soon as you dial 911, those turn back on, and we will get your location.
Question. Do you enforce state laws as well?
Yes. So we, as Stow police officers, we can enforce state laws as well as the Stow bylaws. The environmental police can only enforce state laws. They don't enforce the Stow bylaws. And they are out there patrolling. I heard they were out there yesterday. They don't tell us when they're coming into town. They don't tell us what their enforcement action is. They don't report to us at all. They're their own separate agency. But they have the authority to enforce Mass General law, just like we do. We just have the added responsibility of enforcing the bylaws, too, on top of that.
Is there a way to get their report after they come off the lake to see what activities they...
You'd have to go through them. Again, we don't know when they're out there. I just heard that they were out there. And that was like last night, not even during when they were there. And that wasn't from them. It was from someone who's on the lake. So it wasn't us at all. So they won't report anything to us. Any other questions? You guys? No? Okay. All right. Thank you guys very much.
Yeah, thank you, Sergeant. I dug around in my T-shirt file drawer. This is the oldest one I could come up with. This was a particular time that was an important milestone for the association. 1993 was the 80th anniversary of the incorporation of the Lake Boon Improvement Association, which is the name. We always, just in shorthand, refer to the Lake Boon Association. But it's important to note that the word improvement is in there. And we are, as a 501c3 association, we can get tax-deductible donations, but we can't just use it all to have parties. So I commend the association for, I mean, the Ronnie Fund is a good example of that, where the association supports water safety training for kids around the lake. But I would just encourage more educational aspects, be that around the rules, which I'll touch on in a minute, or anything that goes on. I know it's got quite a history, and I'm kind of proud to be part of it. I was thinking tonight when I came over here, my first visit to Lake Boon was 70 years ago this month. So I've been, I guess that qualifies me. I'm not continuous, but I got a pretty good, there's a few folks here that might be ahead of me on there. Any new residents, by the way, on the lake? People, this might be a first meeting. Oh, in your names, please?
Pat King.
Jackie Lawrence.
And you are located where?
16 Barton Road.
Okay, welcome. And I hope you pay your membership on the way in. The plug for these folks that do so much work. And please buy T-shirts to advertise your residence. And Hunter Avenue, good. We have one Stow, one Hudson representative. It's a great place. Okay, I guess drawdown. Conray, are you pinch hitting tonight on that? I'll do that. Yeah, I'll stay here. But that's the.
Okay. So everybody's familiar with drawdown at this point, except probably the new people. We draw the lake down about 18 inches. I call it emptying the bathtub. It helps with the weed growth. It helps with water quality. So we do draw down. We've been doing it for a long time now. It's part of the total lake management program we've had in place for a while. And that basically is drawdown, education, and weed control or weed management on the lake. So those are three major things we do as a commission to deal with water quality on the lake. We draw the lake down in the fall, and we bring it back up in the spring. And we draw it down. I always get the dates wrong, but October 1st, I believe, is the right date we start. And we have to have it down by November 1st. We actually have some formal documents that define that stuff from the two conservation commissions. We're under both conservation commissions, Hudson and Stow. So that's always fun, but they work together real carefully. And in terms of bringing the water back in, it's kind of determined by ice out. We'd like to have it back up by April 1st. We're supposed to. But if there's still ice in the lake, we won't put the boards back in the dam until the ice is off the lake. Because of, I believe we've already heard about a little damage on docks. So we don't like to bring the ice out. Has been late this year and last year, so we were a little bit late bringing the lake back up. Also, this particular year, Stow Conservation Commission asked us if we'd hold off on refilling the lake because some residents are doing wall work, and we delayed about 2 weeks for that. But the lake came right back up. Anybody noticed any rain this year? So we've got plenty of water in the lake. We're actually high right now, as you can see from the picture that's up there right now. What else do you want me to cover? Any questions on drawdown? And Andy's not here, so how about weed? So the way we do weeds is we do a major treatment every 3 years, and then we do a maintenance treatment in the in-between years. By the way, Andy went to the other place. He's over at the... he's trying to get in. So we've been doing that for a long time now, but fundamentally it's paid for by the towns. We don't have to tin cup anymore. So it's split 2/3 Stow, 1/3 Hudson. And we have a regular payment schedule, et cetera. The first treatment will be this Wednesday, I think, everybody, is that right? June 5th. And that'll be a major treatment, which means we'll be trying to bring the concentration of fluoridone or sonar up to about 20 parts per billion. In basins 3 and 4, not basin 1, because there's not really any weeds there we worry about in 1. There are some weeds in 1, but they're not invasive. So there are some grasses in basin 1, and people ask about that, but they're not invasive, and we don't treat non-invasive weeds. So that's why we don't have to do 1. 1 is deep enough, so we don't really have a big problem in 1. And let's see, I lost my train of thought there, but anyway, so we'll do that. We'll bring sonar up. The day they do it, the lake is restricted. Weed treatment is a herbicide. Everybody knows what a herbicide is, right? It kills plants. It does it by inhibiting photosynthesis of the plants. When we do it, if you look for any of the weeds, you'll notice they turn pink. It's because they can't make plant food anymore because we stop the photosynthesis in the plant. Now, if you should take that same water and put it on your garden or your flowers, guess what's going to happen? So you really don't want to use lake water on your gardens. Basin 1, on basin 2 and 3. 3 and 4. So, and what else? We will get a notice. Solitude is the company that does it. There is only one company that does it now, by the way. We used to have 2 competing companies, and they all merged into one company, so it's sole source now. Any questions? Laura?
Where are they putting it? Where are they putting the sonar? I think that shows the restrictions, but not necessarily where the application will be. Is it along the shore of Basin 2?
I thought we were going to do the whole basin, Don. I thought we did all of Basin 2. No, sonar everywhere, dike water is required.
But the restriction of irrigation is only here.
I haven't seen that this year's plan. Andy has it. So let me answer your question first. The way we do this is there'll be an airboat. The airboat has tanks on it. The sonar is a liquid. The airboat has nozzles that inject the chemical under the water, and they'll drive around. Andy, we're putting sonar in Basin 2, right?
Yes. Yes. You've got to use the mic.
Oh, sorry. And this is Andy. He's been managing the weed program.
Sonar is going to be applied in basins 3 and 4, and Diquat will be applied in basin 2. And that's for this treatment.
Okay. Does that answer your question? And Diquat we do that one off the boat, right? Point, basically point. Do they use the airboat for Diquat? I don't think so.
To be honest, I don't know exactly in terms of the application method.
Well, it's the same as every year, we get the airboat in basin 2.
Yes.
But again, my understanding of the restriction for irrigation is only the yellow area, third basins 3 and 4. Because that's shallowest, and you get the
Highest concentration.
What is the Diquat going to treat?
Repeat that question.
The question is, what does Diquat treat? So the way I understand that is Sonar is, what's the right word I got to find? So they both treat the same things, okay? With Diquat, it's stronger and they can put it in individual spots. With Sonar, they try to get the level up in the entire basin 3 and 4. I'm pulling back to what I used to manage it myself, but the recommended dose, if I remember right, is 40 parts per billion, but we've been doing 20 and it's been working. So it's very, 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 very diluted, and the half-life is fast. It doesn't last long in the water. Did that answer your question?
Partially.
Partially.
What weeds are they going after with Diquat?
The bad ones.
We have 3 different types of weeds we worry about. We have fanwort, we have milfoil. Those are the 2 big ones. There's curly pond weed. It doesn't. It will kick the pond lilies back, but they're very, very difficult to kill because they have huge roots. So they typically, we don't go out. They'll go, get knocked back, but then they'll come back. Welcome, Laura.
In the past years, they've given us 2 PDFs, one about the restrictions and one with the exact places they were treated. And in the last year, I believe, they only treated Monahan's Cove and then down by Hale Road in that corner in Basin 2. So to hear that they're treating the whole Basin 2 now seems unusual to me.
It's not. Want me to answer? So what I started off by saying that we do this in a 3-year plan. So what we do in I'll call it year 1, we do a major treatment and we knock the weeds down like we're doing right now. The next 2 years, we do what's called a maintenance treatment. It's less chemicals, and what we're basically doing is trying to maintain what we accomplished in year 1. But we slowly lose. And by year 3, we got to do it again. So this is the major year. So what we'll do this year is we'll bring the major treatment up and knock everything back. And then the next 2 years, we'll just maintain it. And then the 4th year from now, we'll have to do it again. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Those of you who don't know him, Conray Wharf has been on the Lake Boone Commission, best of my recollection, 26 years, because done a great job. And the 3rd member of the commission is Chris Crablin. Would you put your hand up right here? From Stow. She's been on, going into your 2nd, going into your 3rd already. Time goes fast when you're having fun. Okay, the dam issue. And there is no expletive in that, although some people say it. Even the Finance Committee in Stow referred to it. I guess we're dealing with the dam issue, but they toned it down. Those of you who drive over it, it doesn't take an engineer to notice that there are some structural deficiencies with that. Right out at the outfall, the boards, the fence line along there as you're approaching it dips. That means that the soil surrounding it is dipping. which is not a good thing. State licenses and inspects all dams, all over the state, and whatever they say goes. They had been doing so on a regular basis, and a couple of years ago they came up with some deficiencies and then upgraded it to near approaching failure status. It sounds more drastic than it is, but they have a valid concern for mandating that repairs be made so that the dam doesn't let go and drown Maynard, which is what would happen and would leave us around the lake with a giant mud puddle with a lot of fish flapping around in the mud. And they have some teeth. If the town says, so sorry, please, it's going to cost too much money, we're not going to do it, they can say, all right, under our emergency powers, we can order you to slowly remove the dam, breach it, and drain the lake so there is no danger downstream. That's not something anybody wants, obviously. So the town of Stow owns the dam and has been taking its responsibility seriously. They've had an engineer go work with the state dam people, and they have come up with a set of remedial actions, some of which you can already see if you're driving across the dam. There's new riprap out there. The stone on the face, the lake face. The highway department is doing that with their own force, so it wasn't an additional cost item. At town meeting this year, at Stow town meeting, we appropriated $87,000, which is not chump change, for the final design work, and hopefully that's submitted to the state and they approve it as is. If they come back and say they want changes, we have to accommodate the changes. That will be facing us next year at town meeting, and I would expect it will draw some interest. This year, the basic engineering cost did not. It sailed through. I know that there are some people that every once in a while say, gee, we at Lake Boon don't get much back for our tax dollars. Well, this is an example where they are stepping up to the plate and doing what is necessary, both for safety and those of us who like to look at a lake instead of a mud puddle. I'm not sure what the timing of it is. One of the things that will have to be done is right where you're looking at. That's the outflow, and it goes under the road through a corrugated steel tube, which is badly corroded. So one of the things that will have to happen in this rebuild is to dig that up and put in a new drain pipe. Hopefully it won't require refitting the concrete that through which the water goes. Right there, I think they're going to say you're going to have new bars put across there, the safety bars. 70 years ago, I used to stand on them and fish, and they look exactly the way they did 70 years ago. But the state wants to change them. There will be other changes that will go through the selectmen and ultimately town meeting. Yeah, Pat. The question was, could we ask any of our neighbors, who I think, this is not my statement, that drove tanks on trucks across the dam. I don't know what she's talking about. But we could certainly ask, but I don't think there's any mechanism for requirement or that we could compel such action. If it's a substantial rebuild cost, I would think that the town might ask the town of Hudson if they want to participate in it, but I don't think there's a mandate there either. We own it where it happens to be placed. Carolyn? Not posted. Well, you have to go through a process. It isn't just the cost of the sign, but especially given its tenuous condition, that's a good idea. If I knew anybody on the Board of Selectmen that could talk to the town administrator, that question could be asked. Okay, okay, thank you. Yes, and, Allison? Well, obviously, it's going to take more than a day. Oh, the question was, will Barton Road be closed for that process? Yes. We don't have the luxury of the Gleasondale situation where we could, make it one-way traffic. It's a one-lane road. So I'm not telling anything out of order here to say that. It's a question of how long it will be done, and that depends on the engineering requirements. But obviously, something like that is central enough to our way of living that I'm sure they will do it as quickly as they can, and there'll be plenty of notice and signs and what have you. Anything else? Quickly? Got to move on. Did I cover everything? Oh, the bylaw change. Yes. How soon I forget. We on the commission spent 18 months, I guess, pretty much, going through the old voting rules, and particularly in light of the fact that the state, as Sergeant Salisi mentioned, is totally has dictated that only police officers can issue voting violations. We came up with a new streamlined version, which basically was going to say, will say eventually, that it's your responsibility to know the law, much as it is when you get behind the wheel of a car. And they don't need to be in our regulations to be enforced. And I think this is somewhere, once I'll tell you about the glitch that developed, but we certainly would appreciate the educational assistance of the Lake Boone Association when this time comes. Maybe posting signs or literature. I want to give a shout out to Dave Gray too. He goes above and beyond on our contact person. I'm sure you see things from lost kayaks and paddles to people towing boats and whatever else. He does a fantastic job, and I'm sure he will continue to do that. The glitch developed. Yes, thank you. It's not in his job description as treasurer, but he's been doing it for years, and we really appreciate it. Oh, and he does the readings at the dam, too, which the town does require on that gauge that you saw there a minute ago. The glitch came up this year. The new streamlined version of the bylaw was included and printed in the warrant, but the language said replace entirely the language shown stricken below, and there was a slip up somewhere administratively or through the printer, I'm not sure where. So the stricken language for the old voting rules was not available. The moderator advised me that that was a flaw in the process, not going to the subject matter. So we took no action on it at Stow town meeting. So we will try to remedy that. We couldn't get it in, even though we have another town meeting coming up at the end of June. That's running on the same warrant, so we couldn't correct that shortcoming. But that will be taken care of if we have a fall town meeting. So where that leaves things is the old voting rules that you have and love or hate, whatever, are still what we're dealing with this year. But those are enforced by the Stow Police. Chris?
Yeah, I just want to clarify, the rules that we have, some of the rules that are in the old bylaws are no longer valid as of years ago because state regulations have superseded those. So the playing field is the same as it was last year for distances and all kinds of things because that's regulated by the state and not by our bylaws. So the only thing you'll see is that officially our bylaws haven't changed, but the rules remain at the state.
Yeah, Thank you for the clarification. And Chris did a tremendous amount of work on this, by the way, keeping track of versions 1 through 79 or whatever we went through. So I really appreciate the help. And her point is that when I say they're the same, they will appear on the printed page the same, but the police enforce them differently because of changes in state regulations. So thank you for clarifying that. Last call. I want to sit down. Thank you.
Thank you, Don.
All right, so as many of you may have known, we have a heat pump program that's going on for Heat Smart for Hudson and Stow. So we just had a brief presentation from those folks to tell us a little bit about what the options are available. It's not limited to just lake folks, so if you have friends and neighbors in Hudson and Stow, they can participate in that. So you want to grab one of those guys, Tim?
Thank you. I'm Tom Green, and I'm here with Barbara Clancy. I'm a member of Green Hudson. Barbara's in Sustainable Stow. Our two groups work together along with the town of Hudson and Stow to get a grant from the state. It's called the Heat Smart Grant. The basic purpose of it is for education and outreach about heat pumps. I don't know if you know about them, but they're basically extremely efficient heating and cooling devices for your home. There are a number of different types, and we have information over there on the page. The one you're probably the most familiar with or may have seen, because I know there are several houses around the lake that have them, are the air source heat pumps. They're basically a large condenser outside your home. It looks like a home air conditioning system. And then they'll have one or more small heads inside different rooms inside your house. The reason that the state is encouraging and putting this program together is essentially to help people reduce greenhouse gas emissions. All of the heat pumps are run on electric, and so because as the electric systems are becoming and changing their source of energy over to less greenhouse gas use, that's the intent behind it. Here in Hudson and Stow, because we have the Hudson Light and Power, we have amazingly good green energy. I think it's close to 90% of the source of energy that for Hudson Light and Power is from non-greenhouse gas emitting sources. Most of it's nuclear. There's also a fair bit of solar and hydro. So it's already pretty green sources. And the other real benefit is that Hudson Light and Power's electric costs are extremely cheap. I think there's only one other community in the state that has lower rates than Hudson Light and Power. So if you're heating your home with oil or with propane, which I think most of the homes around the lake are, you should see fairly significant cost reduction in terms of heating. And then obviously you can also get cooling out of it. During the program, Hudson Light and Power is increasing the credit that they'll give you. Normally they give you a $500 credit if you install a heat pump. During the program, they've increased that to $1,000. We also have a number of grants that we're giving based on income. So we can give grants up to $300 based on what your income level is, and it's based on a state thing. So you basically just send in your information to the state, and they say whether or not you're qualified. The information will be up on our website. But to give you an idea, for a family of 4, if your income is less than $125,000, you would be eligible for the grant. And then there's another program that's associated with it, which we also have some information about. It's called Home MVP. Basically, what they can come in and do when they come in and take a look at your house, someone will come out and give you a free estimate for what it would cost to put in a heat pump. They can also take a look at other things that you may need to do in your home or may be interested in doing, for example, putting in insulation. And so in this program, based on the total energy reduction that you have in your home, they bundle all of the work that you'd have done under a single project. So if you install the heat pump, if you put in insulation, based on the amount of energy reduction that you'll have, there's the greater amount that they'll give you in terms of a rebate. And all of these are available with 0% financing over 7 years. So you can spread the cost out and hopefully see the return that you're getting in terms of the cheaper cost of heating your home. And the repayment period should be pretty quick. So we have a bunch of information over here, some handouts, and I can answer some questions later on. The program is going to be running through the end of October. If you sign up to have the work done and then have it done within 12 months of when you sign up to have it done, then you're still eligible for all of the rebates and the payment back from Hudson Light and Power. So thank you very much.
I will just say I had the folks come and look at my house. I happen to have natural gas, which is a little unusual for being on the lake, but I don't have cooling in my house, and that is another benefit of it. Even though it's called a heat pump, it will do cooling as well. So that's something that is kind of nice, especially now there's no shade tree covering my house, so it's a little steamy in there sometimes.
Our discount program is happening as we speak. It'll be started, the pumping process will be the next couple of weeks. We did send out notice via email about 4 or 5 weeks ago, and for anyone who got the email, they were able to get into the septic pumping program pretty easy this year. But for people who rely on the newsletter this year, the post office kind of held our newsletter in captivity for quite a few weeks. So anyone relying on that for the septic pumping program, they kind of missed out this year. The program was filled up by the time they went out. But this year we did fill up just like every year. So again, anyone needs it done, we will be doing it again in the fall. So you can notify me now by sending something to the lbaseptic.com, and I will respond and then re-ask you if you want it again in the fall. So anyone that did miss it and they want it for the fall, just email it and you'll be first on the list.
What's in it for them for doing this?
Obviously, it's a business. They do a discount. He's been doing this for a lot of years. He's a resident of the lake. He cares about it. He knows all these intricate little systems that we have. Everyone has, like, hidden covers, and he knows where most of them are. So it really works out well for us and him. It helps keep the lake clean and helps us to do that.
Is he doing the same kind of service that he would at regular price?
No, I've actually hired him to do our tank around Christmas time because we've used to have a lot of people over, and I was concerned about the tank at that point with all the washing of dishes and clothes and people coming over and stuff, and no, he charged me more. So the discount is a discounted price.
But you're getting the same degree level of service?
Yeah, yes. I mean, I haven't went out with them, but, you dig the hole and, you pump it out and...
1,500 gallons.
That's right.
They don't
Yep.
leave anything in there.
Right. All good. Thank you. So we're going to go on to our new business and old business.
Okay, this year, a couple new things, things that won't surprise you at all. We are piloting our new calendar date for the Water Carnival to see if people will be back from wherever they've been in the past. People who haven't been able to make it. I know you can't please everybody, but this year, Labor Day weekend instead of the weekend before Labor Day weekend for the big carnival. Get that on your calendar now, and get all these on your calendar now because they come up fast. Lighting of the Lake End Music Boat. Pine Bluffs Beach will have some kind of event there, maybe music, to be determined. Counterclockwise this year, first basin, second. So second basin first, second basin first, first basin second. That's easy to remember. Shoreline lighting. Lighting of the lake is not floodlights, but any other kind of creative lighting. It's really nice when it's a continuous line. It just looks so spectacular. Dave has some great pictures of last year's event. Same old event, going back more than 100 years. There you go. Look at that fine point, focal point there. Dave, you're going to have to go back because I got nothing. Field events for all ages and beach events after lunch. Historic boat tour and boat parade. Details to follow. Yes?
I was asked before if I would do it again this year. I hadn't committed to do it.
Yeah.
But since I made such a big deal about being around the lake 70 years, I'll do it again.
Don has just offered, let's give him a round of applause, for the historic boat tour, which looks like it would be around 10:30 on that Sunday. I see as the Sunday before the parade, the Sunday morning of the parade. The parade starting in the Narrows, gathering with boats, and Shirley has her hand up.
Yeah, we're hosting the judging party again this year. Waterfall, 200 Barton Road, and people invited to come. So I always figured if you had something to drink, because we have a limited amount of booze. But
So, participants and LBA members, it sounds like, are invited to go to Wes and Shirley's. Thank you, Wes and Shirley, again.
Oh, 200 Barton Road.
200 Barton Road will be open house. Thanks so much. It's just such a great culmination of the weekend, and we really appreciate what you do. Please write this in your calendars as well. Saturday, October 13th. The weather is always an interesting factor. Last year we had a great group of people who came, even though there wasn't a whole lot of walking. There were more people than that, but than that picture shows. But Dave brought out the pictures that would have been out on the walk, and we're going to make it work one way or the other. And it just didn't seem like it made sense to postpone it. So come on out for some kind of history experience on October 13th. And if you've never done it, I really recommend it. You're not really required to literally walk around the lake, but it is something special when you see these sites with the labels. Usually the labels are out there on the sites, and a little walking history tour. It's not called a walkathon anymore. I think that might have scared some people away. It's some sort of obligation to raise money or something. No, we're still in T-shirts, and a contribution is accepted, and drink some cider and meet some neighbors. I really encourage you to invite new neighbors, and what a great way to tap into the history and the people you're living next to. Which reminds me, next door Gleasondale is something that I've found very helpful. If you haven't heard about it, you may have gotten a postcard from me inviting you to join Next Door Gleasondale. It's like a social media for neighborhoods, and you could put just about anything that you would want to talk to your neighbors about on this site and join up. And it's just a nice service. Next Door is the company, is the platform, and Gleasondale is our neighborhood. So if you punch in Next Door Gleasondale, you'll connect with people that you might not ordinarily. And I think you just sign up with your email address and maybe punch in you do have to be yourself. It's not an anonymous situation. You are a real neighbor, not an imposter. So yeah, your name and address and email probably. Question in the back.
Yeah, hi, it's Pat. Are we looking for volunteers to help with the Saturday field events and canoe races?
We always are. Thank you, Pat is asking about. That's a great idea to pitch right now. Pat's talking about. Yeah, we do get pretty tired at the end of Saturday. So anybody who has any energy to, and it's always fun. So let us know if you want to come to a planning meeting, and so we can get you on board, or just let us know if you want to just show up on Saturday. You don't have to go to the planning, contribute before that. Just let us know if you can help. This is Pat. Thank you for reminding me. I got a couple more dates here. The beach opens pretty likely this coming weekend after the cleanup at the beach. So Laura Greenow and her teenager crew are out there, and young adult crew are out there, but they could use some help. They have a lot of labor down there, and it's nice to see people from the community coming in, moving the docks out, moving the swimming rafts out, and preparing the beach, which is not a pretty sight after the winter. It's got a lot of debris. That's okay. So that's Saturday the 8th. Saturday the 8th is their big cleanup day, and then the 9th it'll open, and it'll open every weekend. I'm on the Recreation Commission as well. That's why I know all this stuff. It'll be open the weekends following until school's out, and then it'll be open on the weekdays and the weekends. So the beach is coming up to be ready for business. We are also looking for a waterfront director. We might be hiring one soon, but if you know someone who's itching to be, this new position is overall waterfront director. We have a camp director, and we have Laura and Maureen who run recreation, but we don't have someone, an adult, a non-teenager who's running the waterfront. So it's a nice position to offer someone who has that skill. So let us know, let me know, and Laura Greenow know. They may have someone in line, but maybe not. And at the end of the summer, the beach will be closed, and they can use some labor then too, but that's a long way off. We can be in touch about that. Any questions about the calendar or dates? Just remember it's Labor Day weekend, not the weekend before, the big LBA Carnival. Thank you.
Okay. I'd like to put in a plug for the Ronnie Fund. It was established in memory of Ronnie Pastic, who was a drowning victim. But it's dedicated to children's water safety, and at the present time, most of what we've used the fund for is to reimburse swimming lessons for children who are 16 or under. And but if you have ideas for other water safety programs, we do have funding that could go toward that. So we're interested in that as well. And let younger people living around the lake, younger families, know that this is available, because that's what it's dedicated for. Okay. Let's see. Dave, yeah. Our archives, the history records, and a few artifacts that we have with the Lake Boon Association are now held at the Hudson Historical Museum. Lou Halprin has generously watched over those, Lou and Dick Gelpke, both, and we have authorized that they are held at that location, and each year we like to renew that.
I would make a motion that we continue that they remain with the Hudson Historical as in the past.
So I'll read the motion that we have come up with in the past few years and put it on the record here. So I would like to make a motion for continuation of lending current and future LBA artifacts and historical items for the enjoyment of others at the Hudson Historical Society Museum, while being maintained separately but together for a period of 1 year or the next LBA annual meeting approval. Would anyone like to second that? Discussion?
The reason for that was the annual was in the unlikely event
that the society ceased to exist, that we would get the material back. That was why it came up from Lou as a good suggestion, that it needs to be renewed every year.
And the reason being, obviously, is what Don stated, that just so we can get the items back if the Historical Commission ever just doesn't exist. So, all in favor? All opposed? We're unanimous.
Just as a comment, we are going to request, and we've already talked with Dave and anybody else, we have a significant holding. It's not only that file cabinet, but we've got quite a bit of other stuff that Lou and I, and hopefully somebody from the LBA, to go through some of that stuff and weed out duplicates and stuff that really has no historic value, and inventory it and winnow it out, because there's a lot of stuff over the last 100 years, and make some sense of it. So we're going to do that. Wes?
Do you have a budget for digitizing?
No.
Budget for digitizing was asked the question.
We do not. I noticed the LBA has a significant budget. I'm going to suggest party time, but I think a digitizing budget would be great.
Put that up as a question to the audience.
Suggest that the board take appropriate action. I think it would be something that would be widely supported.
We could come back with suggestions for some.
Now, I actually stopped by the Historical Commission on Saturday just to kind of check things out and see if I can get some kind of update on it. And it looks like you guys aren't open there on Saturdays anymore, just Tuesdays after 4, was it?
First Saturdays of the month.
Oh, first, all right.
That was yesterday.
Then, what are the hours there then? Because I was there.
First Saturdays of the month, and
Oh, I'm sorry, maybe it was last Saturday then.
yeah, first Saturday of the month, 10 to 12, Tuesdays 2 to 4.
All right, so it was after, I thought it was 12 to 2. All right, so that's probably what it was. All right. Very good, thank you. So I guess we're on to voting. Oh, one more new business, or old business. The dock registrations that we have now in the Lake Boon bylaws is just a name on your dock, and it's listed that way so people know where to go. With the new bylaw change, or the new changes that the LBC is trying to enact, is a name they're looking for an address of where you are instead of a name. You can put your name as well. And that makes it easier for any emergency personnel to go to respond to. So if there's any questions or anything on that, you can talk to one of the LBA officers. And I guess right now for the voting of the officers.
Just a comment. I was kayaking today. A lot of the homes have their addresses right up front, so there's really strong compliance.
Yes, there is you're right, a lot of people that are participating, right? And so we have 4 officers up here, and we've all agreed that we're going to take on another year. If actually Don has a question.
No, I would like to make a motion to that effect, that the present slate of officers be nominated, and given the fact of their excellent performance and collegiality and effectiveness, I would like to say that we do it by vote of acclamation. And so nominate, you guys close nominations and ask the clerk to cast one vote.
Second, third, fourth.
So it sounds like we've been unanimously nominated.
cast one, and authorized to cast one vote, so somebody should cast a vote for the records.
Any discussion?
Any discussion?
No.
Anyone else who wants to be here?
Discussion. All four of you get salamander awards.
And a round of applause for the good job they do.
Thank you.
Could we also extend that applause to Barbara Clancy, who wrote the Gazette and published the Gazette, and Pat Sorn, who's always helping out in every way that needs to be helped. Julie Siftar in the back selling the T-shirts.
As for water skiing, I just recently got a note that a remote airplane was found, a remote-controlled airplane was found on the lake. I think there should be no remote control anything on this lake. We are water skiing, a remote-controlled airplane can come in. I always stand when I drive my boat, so I'm not behind the windshield. I think we should not use on the lake, except maybe on Sunday afternoon or something, remote anything. I mean, remote flying, anything, helicopter or anything else. Is that against anybody's wishes? I think it's not safe. I don't think I got it. From the eyes, I can see that I didn't make myself clear.
Yeah, so I would just say from the Lake Boone Commission, if that's something you would want in the bylaws, which is where it would need to be enforceable, then you need to come to an LBC meeting and request that. So it would not be something from the LBA. It would be from the commission and would then, if necessary, be, yeah.
And so the vote to adjourn? All in favor? All opposed? Have a good evening. Thank you very much.